Update. I just saw a video of my best friend's fiancé, 27 female, calling my wife, 26 female, a slur. I'm supposed to be his best man at their wedding next week. Original post. I'll keep this short, but I, 28 male, am married to a black woman. I love her so much, and no one I've ever met has had a problem with her or our relationship. My best friend since childhood, also 28 male, is getting married next Saturday to his fiancée Carly, 27 female. She's always been really nice, and both me and my wife like her. Then I got a message from one of Carly's bridesmaids on Instagram a few minutes ago with a video of Carly calling my wife the N-word. I'm just shocked right now and don't know what to think. I never would have expected her to say something like that, and she's never had a problem with my wife, at least not to my knowledge. I'm supposed to be the best man at their wedding, but I'm not sure if I want to stand there and watch my best friend marry a woman who said something like that about my wife. I haven't brought it up to my wife or best friend yet, but I'm going to have to sooner than later. I'm also starting to wonder if my best friend knows about her racism and feelings towards my wife. I'm just lost right now. I don't know where to go from here. How am I even supposed to bring this up to my friend? And how do I tell my wife without hurting her? I just really don't know what to do. Now for the top advice before reading the update. This is one of those situations where you just need to rip the band-aid off and have the difficult conversations. It will likely hurt your wife's feelings, but it's not you causing her the pain, and she absolutely needs to know. Your friend also needs a heads up that he's about to marry a horrible person. Yeah, this is not something you can just sit on. Dude's about to marry her. He deserves to know the dirty stuff. The worrisome thing is that he might know, and he may also be one. He for sure needs to talk to his friend. I imagine that conversation might be easier than talking to his wife though. First off, tell your wife immediately. She has a right to know, and trying to keep this from her will only damage your own relationship. Secondly, send a video to your best friend and ask for an explanation, because there are really only two, and the distinction between them is important. Either one, he has no idea is marrying a racist, which means this is information he badly needs to have, so he can make an informed decision about whether or not he wants to spend the rest of his life with this person. Or two, he does know is marrying someone like that, and is fine with it. In that case, this is information that you badly need to have, so you can make an informed decision about who your friends are and what their values are. Either way, you have to tell him, then just see how he reacts. In either case, I would step down as best man. It would be incredibly disrespectful to my wife to basically endorse a marriage where at least one of the people getting married calls her slurs. Yep, and be prepared to lose the friend, because something tells me he is not going to be shocked by this news and he will defend her. Now, let's not get reductive. He could very well be surprised and still defend her. He may also not be surprised and not defend her. Like, yeah, she says some racist stuffs, and when she does, I just tell her it's not cool and leave for a bit. Hopefully she changes, and if not, I'm gonna have to work double hard on kids. Actually, both of those somehow seem worse than not being surprised and defending. Thanks a lot for the advice. You don't know how appreciative I am of everyone who's been willing to help and give me tips on how to solve this. There's a lot that's happened this past day, so my post on Reddit slipped my mind. And now for the update. Hey everyone! Thanks for all the advice and tips you guys gave me on my previous post. You really don't know how much it means to me that so many people were willing to help. I figured that me and my wife were going to experience racism at some point, but I never expected it from people who we were so close to. There was a lot that happened yesterday, and my post on Reddit completely slipped my mind. So sorry for all the late replies. I talked to my friend first, just to check if he knew. I asked him to come over when my wife wasn't home so we could talk. I showed him the video, and he was shocked. He apologized numerous times and said he would talk to his fiancée. He did confront her, and the wedding isn't happening anymore. He had told her that he needed to talk to her about something, and she apparently broke down. Turns out, she had cheated on him a few months ago with a coworker, and she thought he'd found out. So yeah, the wedding isn't happening, and my friend is crushed. I feel bad for him, but at least they found out she's a cheater and an awful person before they got married. I'm also relieved that he didn't know about her racism. I did start wondering if he had been condoning it or had the same feelings, but I'm glad he didn't. As for my wife, I sat her down and showed her the video. I wasn't too sure about showing her because she is a really sensitive person, and nothing breaks my heart more than seeing her cry. I figured it was better to just tell her instead of having her find out by herself and be mad at me for keeping it from her. She started crying after she saw it and didn't want to talk. I've bought her favorite food/snacks, tried to get her to talk, cuddled with her, pretty much everything. I hate seeing her like this, and I'm not sure how to comfort her. So if anyone can give me some extra advice on that, it'd be much appreciated. I might show her the comments on my previous post so she can feel better. That's pretty much all. A friend did send an apology via text to my wife, but I'm not sure if she's responded yet. Thanks to everyone who helped and gave really useful advice on how to approach this. Edit, some people were asking why I showed her the video, and it's because she asked. I sat her down and told her that my friend's fiancé had said some horrible things. She asked if it was a misunderstanding, and I told her I had a video. She asked to see it, and I showed her. Don't forget to thank the bridesmaid that sent you the video that stopped your friend from making a huge mistake. She put herself on the line for all the right reasons. MVP right there. Yeah, I did something similar and lost my best friend over it. He is still married to that freaking witch. Excellent. You handled that really well, and ultimately you saved your friend so much future pain and heartache by being a good, honest friend. I'm sure he's crushed. Continue to be a good friend to him. He's going to have to heal from this unexpected turn in his life. Your wife needs to process this. She is different in your world in a way you cannot begin to relate to. Know that. She was really lied to in such an appalling way by a mean girl bully, and the backstabbing is really tremendous. Let her process this situation her own way, while knowing how much you love her, and that you went to bat on the correct side of this situation as soon as you were aware, and that terrible person is now out of all of your lives. Hugs to you both. Not a person of color, but I would hazard a guess that her reaction isn't only about a slur. It's the loss of trust in others, and in her own judgment, that she probably considered the ex-future wife to be a friend. Some people can work through that on their own. Most people would benefit from therapy. Yeah, a lot of us pride ourselves in being able to tell, which isn't actually realistic. It's just a defense against the fact that anyone can be two-faced. The alternative is to assume everyone is. No real way to get through the day otherwise. You're always dealing with white folks. So having the rug pulled out from under you, being reminded that no, you can't actually tell with 100% accuracy, can be devastating. It's also one thing to know that some strangers will hate you for your skin without even knowing you. It's another to realize that someone who does know you, who does hang out with you, is friendly and knows that you're a kind, genuine person, will still be hateful to you. Maybe not to your face, but behind your back. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for saying I didn't want my fiancé's best friend to be best man? Original post. My fiancé Grant, 29 male, and I, 27 female, have been dating for years. I knew I wanted to marry him about a year in, but he's been wishy-washy about the marriage. His best friend Keith, 28 male, is married to a friend of mine, Hannah. Since we were 20, Keith was a rude, jealous person who hated me. He hated all of Grant's girlfriends. I tried telling Grant the reason he had no other friends than Keith was because Keith chased everyone around away. For example, I once wore something cute for a date, and Keith told me I looked like the garbage can they had. Grant insisted Keith didn't mean to be rude. Grant wanted my friends to hang out with him and Keith when I just wanted Grant there. I relented. I regretted it when the first time they met my friends. Keith was so rude he reduced Hannah to tears. It was so over the top that even he had to later apologize and made it up to her. My fiancé and I were discussing the wedding. He insisted that Keith had to be his best man, and I refused. I said Keith could be a groomsman, but I did not want that man symbolizing love. Grant got mad and said he had to return the favor as he was Keith's best man and I was Hannah's bridesmaid. I stood my ground, and he threw up his hands and said he would never get married. Edit is not one situation. I was using those to illustrate how his best friend is in general. He's mean and rude in general. He ate a slice of my birthday cake that Grant made before I even got to see it. When we got engaged, he only said sorry to Grant. His nickname for me is Froggy because I have a frog personality. Now for the top comments before reading the update. The bigger question is, why you want to marry and commit your life to someone who thinks it's perfectly fine for his best friend to treat you this way? Do you want kids? If so, are you comfortable with Uncle Keith doing this to you in front of them? Or worse, doing it to them? Because he's not going anywhere. What do you think this would teach your kids? At a minimum, you need couples counseling before you remotely plan a wedding. More likely, you need to rethink why you're okay being married to someone who thinks you being treated badly is okay and doesn't care how you feel about it at all. Grant is a very sweet person. He thinks it's fine that Keith treats me this way because Keith treats him badly too, and he doesn't realize that it's actually not how you show love to a friend. Grant and I do want children. We're both in child-oriented careers. Keith's not a fan of kids, so I never thought of Uncle Keith as a possibility. Honestly, I have to think more about it because I wouldn't want my children growing up in an environment like that. I'm in therapy. I've encouraged Grant to go and he's thinking about it. I'm probably going to ask him for couples therapy if we want to make it work. Even if he's willing to accept being treated badly, he should want better for people he loves. Also, if he's such a sweet guy, it should bother him greatly that you are being hurt and this upset. Instead, he tells someone he's supposed to love that their feelings don't matter and to take being hurt over and over again. That's not sweet. He's sweet to Keith, not you. Keith is possessive of your significant other. He's not going to give him up to kids, and he's going to hate them as much or more than he does you. I don't see a way forward as is. This is much bigger than who's the best man. This is your significant other demanding a toxic, disrespectful, cruel person to be a consistent and regular part of your life. Talking to him hasn't worked. Counseling is all that's left. This is bigger than a fiancé's best friend problem. This is a fiancé problem. You are engaged to a man who sees abusive bullying behavior and is okay with it. Seriously, is Hannah okay? She gets reduced to tears in public and ends up marrying this guy? I hate to think what goes on behind closed doors. He can excuse it. He can defend it. He can be friends with it. He sees nothing wrong with it. You are on track to get married to a man who is okay with bullying and abuse. You need to pause your engagement and get into couples counseling and consider if you can really move on with Grant or not. I totally agree. This is a train wreck looking for a place to happen. Now for the update. So this probably isn't the update people were hoping for. I told Grant all of Keith's awful behaviors, and he interrupted me with the same tired excuses. I asked him if it wasn't Keith but some random person, would he see it as innocent? He was silent, so I made an ultimatum that we had to go to couples counseling for the marriage to go forward, and he agreed. Grant then brought up the wedding. There were a few reasons I didn't want Keith to be best man. One of them was the best man speech. I didn't want to be insulted even subtly on my wedding day. Grant said that if I didn't want Keith to be best man, then no one would be. I said that's fine. Honestly, I wanted to talk this over in couples counseling, but he insisted on rehashing our arguments. He also said that, just to be fair, I wouldn't have a maid of honor. I didn't understand this. Frankly, he didn't have a problem with my friends. Grant likes them. And it felt like he was just doing that to punish me. Then he said that if Keith wasn't invited to the wedding, which isn't what I said at all, then I shouldn't either invite my maid of honor Alice, who's my best friend, or Hannah. Hannah's a bridesmaid, but I don't understand how he dragged her into this, besides being Keith's wife. It was a tit-for-tat situation. I think he was trying to make me back down by issuing ultimatums. It backfired because Grant told Keith about our arguments on him and Hannah not being invited to the wedding, which we hadn't even agreed on. And Keith laughed off him not getting invited, but he got really mad at Grant for uninviting Hannah. He screamed at Grant and basically won't talk to him anymore. Now Grant is upset because I'm mad at him and Keith is mad at him. I told him to save it for couples counseling because opening his mouth did nothing but ruin the situation. This is way too much drama for a wedding. I don't want this to be the rest of my life and our kids when we have them, and I'm rethinking our marriage. I wouldn't get married to him or even stay with him if he is okay with, and making excuses for, his friend treating you like dirt. You'll be happier without that enabler and his verbally abusive friend in your life. Grant is just a great person without Keith. Like if I could be with Grant, I would be happy. But Keith is always there. I don't understand it. Then again, do I even want to be with someone who chooses to be friends with a verbally abusive person? No, he's not. He's just quiet and like his best friend. Someone being good isn't about their behavior when they are pleased. It's about what they are like when they are tested. In this test, he is steamrolling you and picking Keith. I told him he's picking Keith over me, but he insists that I'm picking a fight where there is none and trying to force him to make a choice where there shouldn't be one. Yeah, Keith is his only friend. That's also not my friend, but I'm not the one isolating him. So Keith is a POS, but even he has enough decency to choose his pals over friends. Doesn't say much about Grant, does it? That's what shocked me. Keith doesn't care to be there for Grant, but he loves his pals enough to be mad she got uninvited. Grant honestly sounds like one of those guys that think more about their guy friends and values hanging out with his bros more than his wife. The cringy wedding photos with the groom and groomsman holding a sign, "Got married on a Friday because Saturday nights are for the boys." If that is the kind of relationship you want, that's fine. But don't go into this thinking you will ever have his respect or attention first. And I would rethink any person who try to put punishments on you because you have a legitimate problem. Like uninviting Hannah because you didn't want him as a best man. Grant's not one of the boys. He had to have more friends for that. Keith is his only friend that wasn't my friend first, or a friend of us together. I'm the opposite of a fan for Keith and Hannah's marriage, but he would stand up for his wife. He's still not talking to Grant after screaming at him. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think Grant tries to placate the most stubborn person in any relationship. If it was me versus his mom who's a sweetheart and a bit of a doormat, he'd take my side because I would stand up for myself. He'd try to make his mom back down, and she would. I've never had that happen, but I can see it. If it was me versus Keith, Keith is a selfish jerk who's never heard a word no in his life. So Grant would choose Keith and try to make me back down. The ultimatums were to make me back down, I think.